Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. When you go shopping online, odds are you've seen the buy now, pay later option. Practically every online retailer offers this service. Some popular ones are Klarna, Afterpay, and Affirm, but there are many others. They work by allowing you to spread out your purchase over time, traditionally for weekly or bi-weekly payments. The key selling point is they're usually interest-free. So right when you're in the middle of your checkout debate of should I really spend $100 on a pair of shoes or whatever the item is, it catches your eye. You see that you can do 4 interest-free payments of $25. And you think, oh, $25, that isn't that much. $25 sure hits different than $100. It almost seems like that amount isn't even worth that should I or shouldn't I purchase. It lowers the pain point of the purchase and it makes customers more likely to hit buy. Buy now, pay later services or BNPLs are quickly growing. 50% of online consumers have used BNPL services, and the usage for these services is up 85% from 2020 to 2022, and it's only expected to increase. BNPL services target younger consumers. Gen Z and millennials make up 75% of BNPL users. These companies market themselves as an ally to the consumer, making things more affordable by spreading out the purchase over time and not charging interest. But the truth is, these services can be wildly damaging to people, their credit, and their overall financial well-being. First, you have the obvious, that these services create a false perception of affordability. Maybe spending $60 on something you don't really need isn't in the budget right now, but instead spread that out over 4 installments of $15 a piece and it can seem wildly affordable. What harm can $15 do? Well, the average person using these services isn't just using them one time on a $60 purchase. Rather, the average user of BNPL services has $883 in outstanding balances. Moreover, 38% of BNPL users are using this service once a month. It's being used on small and large purchases alike, electronics, clothing, groceries, and games, just to name a few, with 60% of users saying they use the service to buy non-essentials. The problem comes when you overextend yourself, which can be really easy to do if you commit to the service over and over again. Each time you click buy, you think, oh, it's just a $10 payment or a $20 payment. But if you do that over and over again, it can easily end up being several $100s every 2 weeks. And if you're in a situation where you need to be using these buy now, pay later services, you're probably in a situation where you can't afford several $100s every couple of weeks, which is why it can be so incredibly easy for people to get in over their head with this. And really pushing the burden of paying for these miscellaneous items down the road to future you isn't all that helpful. It's like when people take out an 8-year loan on a car. After a while, that car doesn't feel new anymore. After a while, it feels like you have the burden of these payments on an older vehicle that is sitting in your driveway. In the same way, if you bought a shirt using buy now, pay later, you've worn it several times, it's been through the wash and it now sits wrinkled on the floor, is that an item that you truly had to have? It was an essential item to get, or is it just one of your older shirts now? Many young consumers are being lured into debt with these services. Consumers are getting in a little bit over their head and then they fall behind on their payments. And that is where these buy now, pay later services make their money. 33% of buy now, pay later users have made a late payment on their outstanding balances, and a full 46% of BNPL users anticipate making a future late payment on purchases. That reduced price tag is the one that registers mentally, that $10 over 4 weeks, not the real price tag. It's playing mental games with consumers, and the games are working. People are regularly buying products that are otherwise simply too expensive for them. In fact, the main reason people use buy now, pay later services are they can't otherwise afford the item, they want to avoid paying interest on their credit card bill, and they don't have a credit card. I really like using a credit card. I like the consumer protections that come with it, and I like the points. And I know I'm not alone. A lot of people feel that way in the financial community. But here's the thing. If you're using your credit card and paying it off in full every single month, you don't care what your interest rate is. You're never going to pay interest on your balance. Every single month, you pay that balance down to 0. So when you hear that people are using this service to avoid paying interest on their credit card, it shows that the primary user of these services are buying items that they wouldn't otherwise be able to afford. In many ways, these services are targeting vulnerable segments of the population who really aren't in a situation where they can afford to be buying the items they are actually purchasing. They are doing it under the guise of making it affordable over time, and they should be seen as predatory in nature. Because the reality is, if you can't afford to pay for these non-essential items up front, you shouldn't be buying them. There is no need to build up debt on consumer goods. And many of these services market themselves as not charging any interest, but they do charge late fees. And with a third of all BNPL purchases resulting in late fees, it's easy to see why these companies are so profitable. Klarna and Afterpay, they charge late fees. The late fee is capped at 25% of your purchase amount, which is a very generous cap. If you purchase an item for $500, the most you can be charged in a late fee is $125. Affirm, on the other hand, follows a different business model. They don't charge late fees. They do charge a commission to the businesses that use their services, and then they also charge interest on some purchases to the consumer. One way or another, when you use these services, someone's going to pay, and most likely it's going to be the consumer because the cost will be pushed back onto the consumer, even if the business is the one to originally incur the cost. Worth noting that these services actually do report to credit agencies. And if you think they're going to give you a credit boost, think again. These short-term loans, which is what buy now, pay later services are, actually drag down your credit score even if you're making your payments on time, because each time you use the service, it opens up a new loan. And by doing this repeatedly, it makes it look like you have loads and loads of short-term loans. And that can make the average age of your account history lower. Your length of credit history accounts for 15% of your credit score. Klarna actually recently created a card. It's not like a traditional credit card, but it is swiped like a card, and it allows you to bring the experience of buy now, pay later to your everyday life, not just online. And all I can think of is what a terrible idea. The card does come with a monthly fee, but they're trying to hook users by saying that you don't have to pay interest on the purchases you make using the card. If you're a credit card user, think of how often you use your credit card in a given week or a month. Maybe it's the gas station, the grocery store, dinner. Over the course of a month, you might have 30 separate transactions. But if you use this card instead of a credit card, instead of 30 separate transactions, you have 30 short-term loans that get reported to the credit agency. What a nightmare for your credit report. Even if you're a responsible consumer and you make your payments on time all the time, can you imagine wanting to go buy a car or a home and they run your credit report only to find that you have hundreds of short-term loans? That is not going to be pretty. This card is nothing but downsides. Monthly fees, potential late charges, and literally no potential upside. I don't see one good thing about it. And on a personal level, I was annoyed by the slogan on the Affirm site. "'Tis the season to pay over time for really great presents." Nope. It is never the season for that. If you can't afford to buy it outright, you can't afford to buy it. There is no need to go out and buy all these gifts for people, rack up debt, risk late fees, and destroy your credit in the process. Just no. And let's be very clear, BNPL is nothing like layaway. Layaway is an installment plan where you pay for your merchandise over a few weeks or months, and then once your item is fully paid for, only then do you get the item. With BNPL, you actually get your item immediately and then you take out a loan for it. The item is not paid for. Some retailers like Amazon offer layaway options. Unlike buy now, pay later, there's no risks associated with layaway. Even if you miss a payment, you'll simply receive a notice, and if you don't make your account current, Amazon will automatically cancel the layaway plan for that item and refund all amounts to the payment method used to make the previous payments. We do not charge any late fees for overdue or canceled layaway plans. So full refunds, no fees, and the credit agencies are not involved. Walmart used to offer a layaway option, but instead has simply opted for these buy now, pay later services. More retailers are going this BNPL route. Why? Because of instant gratification. It simply sells more. Consumers want to know the minute they hit buy, that item is on its way to them. Companies that use BNPL services increase their sales numbers. These services make items look more attractive by chunking down its price. It gets consumers to hit buy more often. So it's not hard to see why more and more businesses are implementing it. And it's not just an American thing. Buy now, pay later services are available globally. The best thing you can do is stay away from these buy now, pay later services. They're not doing anyone any favors. They are deliberately targeting people who cannot afford these services. They're going after the youngest generations, the ones least likely to have a credit history built up, and those least likely to have an understanding of how these financial vehicles work. As I said before, they're kind of predatory in nature and going after people in vulnerable financial situations. These services are starting people off on the wrong foot financially. It's best to just go with the motto, if you can't afford it or if you can't afford it outright, don't buy it. What do you guys think? Have you ever used buy now, pay later services? Do you know of other people who've gotten in trouble with them? Leave your answer in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I hope you have a good one. Bye.